MIT engineers created a thread-like robot that can glide through the brain's blood vessels and could deliver clot-reducing drugs to treat strokes or aneurysms. The robotic thread could offer an alternative to open brain surgery, and it could be controlled by surgeons outside of the operating room. Now, theoretically, surgeons could control it remotely from an entirely different location. The team described the magnetically steerable hydrogel-coated robotic thread in a paper published in Science Robotics. The core of the thread is made from nickel-titanium alloy, which is both bendy and springy. It's coated with a rubbery paste or ink which is embedded with magnetic particles. That's then covered with a hydrogel which makes the wire smooth and friction-free, and the final product can be controlled using magnets. Today, researchers typically clear blood clots in the brain by inserting a thin wire through a person's main artery. The surgeons use a fluoroscope which images the blood vessel using X-rays to manually rotate and guide the wire into the damaged brain vessel. A catheter is then threaded along the wire to deliver drugs and other clot therapies. But the procedure is physically taxing on the surgeons, who are exposed to repeated radiation from the fluoroscope, and the wires carry the risk of damaging the vessel's linings. Now, in contrast, this robotic thread is controlled by magnets, and surgeons could guide it from outside the operating room. They'd be protected from repeated radiation exposure, and they might be able to perform procedures remotely using a joystick. Yes, remote robotic brain surgery using a joystick. Thanks to the hydrogel, there's less risk of friction against the vessel lining as well, and the device could help surgeons reach even further into the brain. One of the challenges in surgery has been to be able to navigate through complicated blood vessels in the brain, which has a very small diameter, where commercial catheters just can't reach. This research, however, has shown potential to overcome this challenge and enable surgical procedures in the brain without open surgery. The robotic thread isn't ready for clinical use yet, but the team demonstrated its agility by steering the thread through an obstacle course of small rings similar to threading a needle. They also created a life-sized replica of the brain's major blood vessels and guided the robot through those winding, narrow paths. Eventually, they hope the robotic wire might deliver clot-reducing drugs or break up blockages with a laser. Sony's PlayStation 2 is currently the best-selling video game console of all time, having sold over 159 million units since its release back in 2000. Now, over 3,800 games have been released for the console, with over 1.5 billion copies sold. There were several smaller, lighter revisions of the console too, known as slimline models in 2004, but one thing that they never made was a portable version. But Reddit user DarkwingMod created the next best thing. Unlike other portable models, the Pi S2 one uses real PS2 hardware paired with a Raspberry Pi 2, which loads game files over an Ethernet-connected SMB server without resorting to any type of emulation. Now, this means titles run full speed and full motion video cutscenes perfectly, just as they did on the original hardware, because it is original. Inside, you'll find the PS2 Slim hardware complete with a screen that has both VGA and composite signals. A full charge is good for about 90 minutes of gameplay, and I say it's well worth a look. And finally, happening in this week's What The? A California fire airplane dropped fire retardant on a Southern California fire and caught an NBC7 reporter by surprise while he was reporting on live television. Stephen Luke was reporting from Riverside County on the efforts to control the wildfire. He was in the middle of his newscast report when suddenly, right before he tossed back to the anchors in the studio, a California fire aircraft appeared from the other side of a hill and opened its cargo doors. A large cloud of fire retardant landed on Luke, his photographer Scott Baird, and a number of Kern County hotshots in the area. Instead of dropping his camera and running, Baird held the shot and, well, you can see for yourself, captured the retardant drop in all of its glory. Luke said he heard fire crews behind him say, "Whoa!" and run, seconds before it happened. It's kind of like pink raindrops. It really doesn't stick to you or your clothing, he said afterwards. You can wipe it off with a wet cloth. Firefighters grabbed hoses from nearby houses and helped to wash down garage doors, sidewalks, and awnings. The aircraft was an MD-87 air tanker owned by Erickson Aerotankers, who was contracted with California Fire. That plane has a storage capacity of 3,000 gallons. The NBC7 crew was reporting from a neighborhood that was under evacuation, but they were not in an area where media was not allowed to be at the time of the retardant drop. Thanks for watching your weekly tech update. If you have a story you think we should feature on the program, why don't you contact me? Send me an email at djraymcneil@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Your Weekly Tech Update. Check out the podcast too, audio and video versions available on iTunes, Google, Spotify, Audio Burst, and elsewhere on the interwebs. Till next time, I'm Ray McNeil. Good night, world. Your Weekly Tech Update brought to you by Holiday Home Care, Phillip Island, Victoria, Australia. It's your turn to relax.